But I think it's sort of, at what point do we allow the government to overreach when children are involved? Well, when it's to save their lives, absolutely, I think law should be passed as such. But I think as parents, we know better sometimes how to house our children, how to feed our children, and more so in a community where church is involved, and I think that should be left to the responsibility of
Okay,
the
so but,
communities.
so should CPS, I mean, do you just tweak it, or do we try to dismantle it?
I don't think we should dismantle it altogether, but I don't think it should have the overreaching powers that it does. It's so difficult to adopt a child. Someone who has no home in Texas, I think that's something that we need to
Well, so
work
you
on.
have to do one or the other. I mean, we either have to let it go the way it's going, we have to tweak it to improve it, you know, fix it here, fix it there, or we just have to kind of take it apart
No,
limb by limb. So you don't want to do either, you don't want to
No.
tweak it and you don't want to dismantle it.
I don't want to dismantle it,
Okay.
but I
You want
said
to tweak it.
we want to, like every other governmental agency, we need to downsize it to a point that there's not such a bureaucracy to allow it to run.
Do you, with that, do you subscribe in Hillary's moniker of it takes a village to take care of a child, basically? Because it kind of sounds like that's been your theme along
I don't
with
think that
Medicare or.
Yeah, I don't think it takes a village, but I think it's a community, and I think that's how we are in Texas. We're a community-based small town, whether you go to Fredericksburg, whether you go to McAllen, Texas, San Antonio. This was the Southwest. This is how communities survived out here. We didn't necessarily, we relied on churches, we relied on each other, and I think that is just a culture in this area. And I don't know about Hillary, I didn't grow up with her, I'm not from Chicago, not that I'm disparaging Chicago in any way, but that is just the culture in the Southwest. And that's something that Washington, D.C. can't seem to understand about. States have rights, but among those is protecting our communities.
I got one, and we're going up a little over time, but got one that should have asked earlier. As a senator from the state of Texas, how would you proceed, how would you get the federal government to start securing our borders?
That's a great question, and you know, we have such a porous border, and if you all have ever gone to Mexico and then re-entered the country, we have these stops where people ask you, are you a U.S. citizen? And you say yes, and they wave you through. I think we need to be a little bit more discriminatory. I think every person that comes through that border should be stopped and inspected properly. We all should
I'm
carry.
talking about mainly the unsecured border, in other words, down the Rio Grande. How,
Right.
The federal government is not doing what they're supposed to do.
Mhm.
How would you, what would you do to get them to start doing what they're supposed to do? Or
Well-
how would you,
Well, first of all, I would have people be stopped. That's a mandatory. There is a corridor of, with NAFTA and CAFTA that we have to protect because that obviously brings in money to our economy and vice versa, so we have to protect that corridor. But if you're asking me, should the state be more involved in our border issues? Absolutely, because I think the state knows the border a little bit more. If the government, the federal government were to come in and take away our property rights in Texas, that would be a problem. But I think as the state intervened and created, I know everyone wants a fence, and if we could physically do it, great. Where it wouldn't be such a burden on our tax, yes. But I think that the states, Texas, should be involved in that process more than the federal government, because again, in Washington, D.C., they seemingly don't understand what property value and ownership of property rights are.
All right, that about wrap it up?
Yeah.
Okay, well, go ahead, Linda, and if you will, please, use up to the next 5 minutes to, do your closing.
Thank you.
Then we'll wrap up.
Okay, thank you. enjoyed meeting you. I've enjoyed your questions. I hope that you all are concerned with what is happening in Washington, D.C. enough to make a change. It is not only a sense of our economic viability of this country, but we cannot keep going on this course, continuing to spend, growing the deficit, and we cannot keep voting away our liberties, because that's what's at stake. I know one of the big issues is that there's an income disparity that's killing the American dream. That is not true. What's killing the American dream are these big government laws being created, Obamacare being so intrusive, the NSA coming into our lives and spying on us. That is stealing away our American dream. It's not killing the American dream. And because, again, we bear the responsibility of that as taxpayers, as voters, and we need to do our job better. We need to get out there and vote for the right people who will not only defend us with our Constitution, but defend us as Texans, because we have every right, as one of the largest states, to have our voice heard, to have people who are seemingly looking after our best interests. Somehow we have forgotten that. We just vote people because of name recognition. We vote people in because there's no one else on the ballot. We need to make better choices, and we need to start exactly doing what y'all are doing, talking to each candidate, vetting them, listening to our ideas. And perhaps we don't agree on everything, but at least we have an interesting dialogue and an open discussion to improve in some areas. And I hope that you will consider me and come to my website, lindavegafortexas.net, and ask me any other question that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Very good.
What Brian will do